The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus went up to the mountain to pray, and he spent the night in prayer to God. When day came, he called his disciples to himself, and from them he chose 12, whom he also named apostles. Simon, whom he named Peter, and his brother Andrew, James, John, Philip, Bartholomew, Matthew, Thomas, James the son of Alphaeus, Simon who was called a zealot, and Judas the son of James, and Judas Iscariot, who became a traitor. The Gospel of the Lord. Who exactly were Saints Simon and Jude? In a couple of the Gospels, Jude is named Thaddeus rather than Jude. So we often say that Jude Thaddeus. Thaddeus may have been a nickname which means big-hearted, at least derived from that word big-hearted in Hebrew. And Simon is identified only as a member of the Zealot party. But, that's enough for us to get a handle on, because the Zealots were a band of fanatics who were bent on overthrowing Roman rule, as they had been previously bent on overthrowing Greek rule, and they did so by violence, and the kind of violence that we today would label terrorism. They were groups who often went around with daggers under their cloak, and when they had the opportunity, they would do public violence, particularly if they could kill some of the Jewish leaders who were in league with the Romans. And for that, they often knew that in doing that violence, they would be giving up their own lives too, which is what terrorists so very often do. They were the equivalent of suicide bombers at the time of Jesus. Jesus must have had to pray an awful lot that night before to choose the two Judases, Judas Iscariot and Jude, who became known as Thaddeus. He must have had to pray a lot the night before to choose Simon, who was a member of the Zealot party. Many scholars feel that these last three were actually all zealots: Jude, Judas, and Simon. But obviously, two of them underwent a conversion from the fanaticism of killing others for a cause to the deep dedication to risking one's life and allowing oneself to be killed. They both died as martyrs for the love of God. There's a telling moment at the Last Supper where Jude, or Judas, not Iscariot, not the traitor, but Jude Thaddeus, says to Jesus, "Why are you going to reveal yourself to us and don't reveal yourself to the rest of the world?" Well, what the Zealots believed in was that there was going to be a Messiah who would be a great military leader, who would lead this band of people to overthrow the Romans and establish the Jews as the dominant force in the world. And it seems that is what this Jude was asking Jesus. Why are you revealing yourself to us as Messiah now? Isn't it time that we conquered the Romans in your name? And Jesus' reply basically calls him back to the message of love. You don't capture people's allegiance. You don't capture people's loyalty by force. You capture people's loyalty only by winning their hearts through love. That is the power of Jesus. So these two zealots underwent a conversion from the use of force and violence to achieve order, to achieve God's order, to the force and the power of love. And the tradition has it that they both were martyred at the same time in Persia for proclaiming this love. The lesson for us is if we are dedicated to a lifetime of serving Jesus through a lifetime of imitating his love and the love of God the Father, we have to let go of the things that force others to do what we want, or even to force others to do what we think is God's will. We simply have to love. That's the lesson of the apostles, the ones who spread the faith and love of God. That's the lesson for us, to both learn and to show by example, to teach one another.